I think God gives us discernment. Then you just simply open the conversation and say, hey, for the last week, we haven't really been connected. I've tried to start some conversations with you that have just kind of fallen flat. And I always kind of put it on me, like, have I done anything that you need to tell me about, like that I'm unaware of? Or is there anything that you want to talk to me about that, here's your opportunity, basically. And so I think like when we address it head on and don't ignore it, we're going to have a much higher success rate in reconnecting.
So what can a husband or wife do if their spouse is disengaged, they're unavailable, they're checked out? What can they do?
I think the first thing, I'm just kind of like, I'm going to approach it head on. If I see my spouse kind of checking out, I'm not going to assume the worst. I've done that in the past. I'm not going to assume the worst. There's this funny meme that was going around social media a few years ago. It was a couple and they were sitting on the couch and the husband, I'm assuming they were married, but the husband was kind of like deep in thought. And the wife, you could read her thoughts and she was thinking about, oh, he's, interested in another woman. And she's going all down the list, about he's got this other woman on the side. And I wonder when he's going to tell me that he no longer loves me and he wants to be with this woman. And then they show the husband's thoughts and he's like, I wonder what color motorcycle I should buy, and it's so, it's so funny.
Good.
Yeah. It's like, as women, a lot of times we can be like, oh, my husband's not interested in me anymore. And we can go down this whole laundry list of things that he's not thinking about at all. I think one of the hardest things, it's still very hard for me to understand. I'm sure you've heard of the nothing box, Dr. Kim, how you men have this nothing box that exists.
Yes.
As a woman, I do not understand that. I cannot physically comprehend how you can think about nothing. And so sometimes my husband is literally, I guess, thinking about nothing, and I feel like he's disengaged from me. And so I will say, hey, are we okay? And he's like, yeah, what? Are you okay? Like, yeah, we're good. And I'm like, I just feel like you're distant. I feel like you're pulling away. And he's like, Dana, I'm good. I just was over here thinking about nothing. I still don't understand it, but I've learned how to not overreact and how to believe the best. If he truly says that, then okay. Now, if I'm noticing that this is a pattern and I go to talk to him and he pulls away, or I go to say something to him and he meets me with a shallow answer, or, you can feel those things. I think God gives us discernment. Then you just simply open the conversation and say, hey, for the last week, we haven't really been connected. I've tried to start some conversations with you that have just kind of fallen flat. And I always kind of put it on me, like, have I done anything that you need to tell me about, like that I'm unaware of? Or is there anything that you want to talk to me about that, here's your opportunity, basically. And so I think like when we address it head on and don't ignore it, we're going to have a much higher success rate in reconnecting. And then the spouse who does maybe it's nothing big. A lot of times we're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But if you find yourself continuing to think about it, maybe it is more of a big deal than you think it is. So just talk about it. Again, conflict isn't scary. It doesn't have to be something that, well, I don't want to bring this up because I don't want to make this into a big deal. It's not going to be a big deal if you bring it up earlier. When it becomes a big deal is when you've allowed it to fester for so long, and then you bring it up. Now you've got all the emotions and the, illustrations and all that stuff attached to it that makes it a big deal. So I think just address it head on. If you start to notice that pulling away, that distance, just ask. Asking is always better than assuming. So I would never go to my spouse and say, hey, you're distant. What's going on with you?
That's not going to work real well, is it?
That's probably not going to work.
No.
But asking a question, hey, are we okay? Like, I miss our chats at night. I miss our conversations. Are we good? Is there anything that you want to talk to me about? That's going to go over so much better than just assuming the worst.
Absolutely. And it gives him a chance to respond back in a good way. And I think if you agree ahead of time, both of you, we are going to be honest with you, and we give each other permission to ask those questions, to hit it head on. And then I think you've set up kind of a scenario to really be honest. And I think sometimes as guys, we do think of nothing, or we get distracted, and it's nothing against our wife, but sometimes I need Nancy to go, are you okay? And I'll say, yeah, I am okay. And for her to say what you just said, but I just feel like we haven't connected as much this week. And I go, oh, okay. Yeah, I can take care of that. because sometimes I think it's when you look at each other that we really are a team working together. And when I am asking you if you feel disconnected, I'm not belittling you. I'm not saying something bad about what you're doing. Just saying, like you said, I miss you. I want those conversations. Can we get back on track? That's such a good way to do that. And I've always felt that if a couple can learn to really communicate well, which involves really listening well to each other, you're going to have a lot less conflict.
Oh, yeah.
A lot less conflict because you're doing life together. And then we combine that with praying together. You can be way ahead of the game. Not going to be perfect. They're still going to do something that irritates you.
Right.
After 54 years, I can still do things that irritate her, And if every once in a while she might do something with me, but yeah, it's just really kind of what the decision you made at the beginning when you were pregnant of, we're going to make something out of this. We're not going to just waste this. Right. And you guys have worked hard at that for 25 years.
Yes. To God be the glory.